This has been awesome. This stretch from the Red Sox. 5 wins in a row. They just swept the Astros for the first time since 2013. And they just swept the number one team, the top team in the AL West, and have now gone into second place in the AL East all by their lonesome, getting some breathing room between them and the Yankees. This team is legit. This has to be a playoff team. But I think what people are so pissed about with this team and this general manager is that maybe this squad right now can't win in the playoffs, and you could have made them a lot better at the trade deadline and didn't do it. And that's what sucks. That's what sucks so hard about this team, is they could have absolutely gotten better at the deadline, and I don't think they did. I really don't think they did. In fact, this guy, Craig Breslow goes out there and gets 2 pitchers, both expiring, and neither one of them is as good as Quinn Priester, who they traded for pennies on the dollar earlier this year. And this is that Quinn Priester deal, which made a lot of sense at the time. It's going to come back. It's going to come back to what I have to say about Craig Breslow. But first, let's talk about Joe Ryan, who's going to come in, and he was going to be the number 2 starter for this team behind Garrett Crochet. He's having an excellent year for the Twins right now, and you would have had a legit 1-2 punch going into any and every playoff series that you would go into this year. And instead, now it gets a little more dicey. Garrett Crochet still hasn't pitched that 165 innings in his career. He's already about to reach his career high, and you're giving him space in between starts because you're already worried about that, and it's the first week in August. You know what's a great way to combat that worry is go out and get another starting pitcher. The Red Sox didn't do it. And once again, how many times have I said this next part this year? How many times have we said this? That the Red Sox make a move or don't make a move, and analysts and front office people around Major League Baseball don't know what the hell they're doing. You know, we saw it with the Rafi Devers trade. We saw it when they weren't calling up Roman Anthony. We got these reports from people very much in the know saying nobody knows what the Red Sox are up to. Nobody knows why they're not calling up Roman Anthony. Nobody knows what the Red Sox saw in this deal when they traded Rafael Devers, who's been one of the worst hitters in baseball the month and a half since they've traded him. But, of course, you got nothing for him. Jordan Hicks is the worst fucking pitcher on the planet. But anyway, how many times this year have we said that, where MLB front offices are saying, what are the Red Sox doing? Well, they're doing it again after the trade deadline. Ken Rosenthal went on his podcast and ripped the Red Sox to shreds, called it an epic fail, and said that the Red Sox package for Joe Ryan was feeble. A guy that they've been looking at for a month plus. Jen McCaffrey, though, more local with The Athletic, saying that the Red Sox were not willing to offer, quote, an enticing enough package of their top-tier prospects for Minnesota. And then Rob Bradford in the Source War says over the weekend, quote, there was also a rare willingness to include anybody and everybody from the Sox's minor league system in the deals. Peyton Tole, Justin Nixon Garcia, Franklin Arias, 2 of the 3 in different combinations were offered up together as part of packages that also included members of the Sox top 10 prospect list. And the Red Sox were not willing to part with Tole, with a password, or Franklin Arias. That makes sense. That makes sense that the Twins were looking at the Red Sox top 10 prospects deals here and trying to kind of raid that farm system. But what I can't get past is the Twins also traded 10 players on July 31st. 10. And so some people would say, well, if they already traded 10, they weren't going to trade Joe Ryan. But in the real world, where we see teams sell, if you're already trading 10 guys, you're done. You've punted it. You have given up your season. Why not get even more capital? What is Joe Ryan going to do for you the rest of the season? You're going to finish in last place. You might be worse than Chicago. So what is Joe Ryan going to do for you? Nothing. And this is where I come back to. It's the same thing we saw with the Devers deal. If Craig Breslow was a really good GM, he could hold the team over a barrel. He could say, look, you're not going anywhere, man. We'll give you one of the prospects. We'll give you Marcelo Meyer. I think Red Sox fans would have been okay with that, even though Meyer is a promising young player. I'm not saying, hey, let's just go trade him willy-nilly. But if you had a package centered around Marcelo Meyer and a couple okay prospects for Joe Ryan, the guy who's still got 3 more years of team control, who's still only 30, who's one of the top starting pitchers in baseball this year, I don't think a lot of Red Sox fans would have been punching the wall after that. I really don't. And they shouldn't have been. But this is what I come back to time and time again with Craig Breslow of the Red Sox and Don Sweeney of the Bruins. If they were a good GM, they could fleece another GM. They could hold them over a barrel and say, hey, buddy, you don't have options here. We'll give you something good. We're bidding against ourselves. And those teams can't do that. Craig Breslow cannot handle that, bidding against himself. I mean, seriously, those of you watching, get in the comments. Like, would you have traded Marcelo Meyer or a package including Marcelo Meyer for Joe Ryan? Because I would have in a second. I think Meyer's going to be a good player in this league, but he doesn't play full seasons at a premium position where you can't just have a guy hurt every single year. Sweet swinging, sure. I don't know if he's going to have power. I don't know if he's going to have dependability. I don't know if he's going to be a gold glove guy. I think he's going to be a solid player. Joe Ryan being your number 2 starter going into a playoff series when you could throw Crochet and Ryan back to back. That's frightening for the other team, man. Frightening. And that, by the way, with the way the Yankees are going right now, that propels you over the Yankees. You're already there. That gives you space between you and the Yankees. If you have that 1-2 punch, they don't have. They're just good. Rodon and Fried, it's pretty good. It's not as good as that one. Not as good as Crochet and Joe Ryan. And Toronto can never put a 1-2 punch like that. Can outlast them, win the division. Instead, you got Dustin May and Steven Matz. Terrific. Neither one of those is good as Quinn Priester, whom, again, let's go back to it. You got, I think, the Brewers like number 10 or 11 prospect for Quinn Priester. At the time, in the first month of the season, they had the worst ERA in all of baseball. They were so freaking desperate to get a starting pitcher in there. And you had all but given up on Quinn Priester, who you'd given a chance to. Let's be fair. You said, you know what? I'd rather take an injured Tanner Houck. I'd rather take Dick Fitz. I'd rather take Cutter Crawford. I'd rather take Walker Buehler and this, that, and the other. I'd rather have Hunter Dobbins. And you trade Quinn Priester, who's had like a sub-3 ERA this year. And lo and behold, the Brewers are one of, if not the best team in baseball right now. Because Craig Breslow can't fleece anybody. He can't make it worth his while, ever. He can't ever hold a team over the barrel. And that's what happened with this Joe Ryan deal again. And what stinks is that the Red Sox are going to be a postseason team. I truly still believe that, unless some massive injury comes along, 1 or 2. Like, they should be a playoff team. But what's going to stink is you'll sit there in round 1 when Lucas Giolito does lose it and is getting lit up in the first inning of game 2, and you think, I could have had Joe Ryan in this game instead as I'm facing elimination. The problem is they have a ceiling. And if they had Joe Ryan, I don't know that they do have a ceiling. If they added Joe Ryan to this team, that team could get to a World Series. They actually could. Even with the first base troubles, I think that's possible. Now, I don't think it is. They're going to be a playoff team. They're not going to be a World Series team. And damned if they're not efficient. But the way the city is back in love with this team, they needed this team to be good, and they are hanging and living and dying with every pitch. I was at the ballpark on Saturday. It was absolutely electric, man. Electric on Saturday. This city is ready for a winner. Craig Breslow is not. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Tell me what you liked, didn't like about the Red Sox trade deadline and where you see their ceiling this year. Let me know in the comments section. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're coming at you live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, either at the home studio or your favorite local public library. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week. Check out the other videos talking Red Sox, Bruins, everything else going on in the world of Boston sports.